Alright, Internet, here's the setup. This is going to be a Wednesday serial, end of the year spectacular that couldn't have come to you without a lot of work from other people, basically. I was going to sit here and enjoy my makeshift lunch of cheese and crackers and some homemade beer of a friend, and it's all very bueno. But I was hoping to do a Google Hangout and just have people pop in while I'm answering these numerous amount of questions, but I realized it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Obviously, I have the day off, and I realize pretty much no one else is going to, right? So I'm just going to record this, but if y'all want to just talk comics, you know, like round table style or just at all, hit me up. I'm just going to chill and burn through these questions, which I realize I didn't explain very well. These are pulled from Ghost Critics Questions of the Day. And Damien did the hard work of assembling most of these questions. And he's answering them himself, and you should go check that out. But I'm just going to run through and do these off the cuff. I'm not doing research. I'm not looking anything up. If it's on my head, it's not happening. But we're making this happen. So let's do it. So the first question is, what is a Christmas gift you would get for a comic book character? And what springs to my mind is Scott Summers' Cyclops always has had the ruby quartz lenses. And that's the only way to keep back his beams. But that was the 60s, man. And technology's actually come forward. And I'm thinking that we could develop just a quartz that would have the property of holding his beams back but be clear. So essentially he could have just a visor and glasses that are specialized but allow him to just see the world normally. You know, I think that's a good step forward. The next one is, do you feel you have to legitimize comic book art in your reviews in videos? And that's an interesting question. I don't feel I have to legitimize comic books to people who read comic books, because that is the only person watching this, or the only kind of person. I don't have to prove comics to them. But most people are in it purely for entertainment, and I do sometimes like to try to find more. But I like finding more in comics because then I get more entertainment out of them. When they mean more to me, I'm more invested. When I'm more invested, I have more fun, enjoyment, however you want to look at it. So I feel like by finding things that legitimize comics as art, by talking it as art and exploring things like lettering or sometimes panel layout or why things work or don't work in a general sense to down to the specifics, I think that's interesting, and that's where I like to do a lot of videos if possible. I just feel like otherwise I'm just like, hey, this comic exists. If I'm not putting my thought into it, what am I doing? I don't know. That's kind of how it works for me. And which ties into, is that too academic over entertainment? And if my view count is to indicate anything, yes. Okay, this next one says, Sophie's Choice. One publishing house dies, one lives, and one is frozen for 50 years. Marvel, DC, Image. The one that lives and the one that's living currently in my mind, Image, okay. Frozen for 50 years, I want to say Marvel just because of the Captain America connection. And then DC dies by default. Sorry, DC's now dead comics. They're basically becoming Batman comics anyways, so I don't think we're too far. I don't know. I think it should work. Next is Superhero Team-Up. Superhero Team-Up or Verse Halloween Monster. I don't know. I'm just going to team up a superhero team with a holiday monster. because that's how I'm going to interpret that. I would actually like to see something like the Teen Titans in a cabin in the woods kind of situation. So like a horror agency putting all these teens through this sort of thing. It would kind of play, it would be kind of like an arcade story, and I know arcade's Marvel, but like they're watching them and like throwing, you know, monsters and different horror situations at them, and they're filming it. I mean, they could film it for that, but also like playing to this end of the world thing that would tie in with Raven. I think that could work, you know. And they cheated on every level of that, but I thought it was more interesting. What attracts you to issue number 1, something coming out now? The Spider-Verse has a number of number 1s coming out, and I am interested in all of them to a degree, but I also have to pick and choose. Like, for instance, beyond everything, there are 3 Spider female comics starting. Spider-Woman, whatever they're doing with The Bride, or however they're labeling that, and then Spider-Gwen. And I'm hoping Spider-Gwen's kind of like an ultimate, you know, other universe comic. I don't know. But I don't know if I'd buy that. At least not outside of a trade. Issue to issue, like, I'm interested in these characters. I want to buy them, but at $3.99 I don't think I'm that fascinated. But I'll probably be picking up one just for sheer curiosity. What comic book character is not currently being used and that I'm missing the most? I'm going to say, Marvel-wise, I would say that Ricochet from The Slingers, which was a Spider-Man spin-off thing years ago that most people have forgotten about, which is a shame. I really liked it. It only ran 12-ish issues, and Ricochet was one of the characters. He was the most outlandish, the most actually like Spider-Man. Bounced around, he threw these bouncing discs, and was fairly agile, whatnot. Maybe not the most interesting character, but probably the easiest to plug in to other things. He was actually part of The Losers, which was another Marvel miniseries that played off of some stuff, kind of like Superior Foes of Spider-Man in a way, before that was a thing. Long before that was a thing. I think he'd be an interesting character to bring back, because he's kind of like if Spider-Man was a loser baby. And just maybe play around with that, maybe play around with some of the smaller rings. I'm usually a bit more interested by characters that have a bit of a smaller scale to them to begin with, so I think that would be cool. And we haven't seen him in years, so they could do whatever they want with him, and I don't think anybody would be mad or honestly even know that they were playing with a pre-established character. DC-wise, a little more noteworthy, I'd like to see The Question come back. I'd actually like to see them bring it back to the Steve Ditko roots and kind of make an Ayn Randian philosophy character in the DC universe to kind of play and prod some of the other characters, especially the way, like, Superman's being done now, and the way that they've kind of, by bringing Constantine, not Hellblazer, but Constantine to the point where he is now, I think playing with that would be fascinating. Beyond that, I would really like to see Usagi Yojimbo maybe get into other creators' hands, maybes, and play around with that. I think that would be cool. That's a series I've always wanted to read, but I don't know. I heard a rumor once about them doing a recoloring of those, and I was kind of waiting for that, which might be folly because I don't know if it's actually ever going to exist. What scandalous things should Image do to keep up with Spider-Woman and Harley? First of all, I didn't think Spider-Woman or Harley was that scandalous. Harley Quinn, and by the way these questions are going down, I'm counting this about the time that Harley Quinn had that Christmas tree / weed scented comic. Actually, I haven't opened that because I have no desire to read it. But I bought it like a sucker. I don't think it's that scandalous. Maybe it's because of where I grew up, but weed scented something, honestly. Honestly, when I stepped out of my comic shop, you wouldn't have been able to tell anyways. But, man, I don't know. Honestly, people are saying, what should Image do? I think Image should just do what Image does, because they've, as much as, yes, they could be doing more to push the boundaries of the comic system, they've done more than anyone else in years. They are free ride for at least a couple more years in my book. And they keep pushing stuff, they keep putting out cool new titles. Yeah, most of it's sci-fi, but I don't necessarily see what people are expecting. I honestly think the best thing, though, that a publishing house could do that's established with other stuff is maybe try to publish stuff closer to eroticism. And in a way, Image already has done that, but I mean really just, like, fucking, like, porn with a story. Like, that is something I think some publishers should be doing to really be pushing some limits, because I'd really like to get that over with, because there's going to be an inevitable, article, Biff Pow Zoom, comics aren't just for kids anymore, look at this porn. And there's been porn comics since comics, but maybe not on that, like, diamond distributed level, and maybe that would be an interesting thing, like, a publisher wants to do it, but maybe Diamond wouldn't let them sell it. I'd be really curious to see it for the controversy, honestly, which I'm normally mostly against, but in this situation, I feel like it's a barrier that's coming, and how it breaks down, how people react, I'd be really interested to see it. So, yeah. Yeah. But, Spider-Woman and Harley, they're so controversial. I don't get it. Where do I primarily get my comic book news from? Oh, man. Either Oddfellows Thoughts, Travis, when he brings up something, Sleepy Reader when he brings up something, or any number of you guys on Twitter when you post something and I happen to be looking at Twitter. That is where I get it. I try to occasionally look at the Comics Journal, but that place goes a little too far to alternative stuff that I just don't care about. I mean, it's cool that people are focused and looking at that, because, I mean, that's good for exploring the art form and stuff, but I feel like they don't bring it back to more relatable stuff enough sometimes, because I've definitely scrolled through and just seen, like, bizarre indie comics, like, off humor weirdness, like, kind of, hipstery sort of shit for basically, a full page, then scroll a little more, see a little more, and then maybe see something semi-relatable. And then, oddly, usually when it's more mainstream, it's like something on Marvel or DC. Rarely are they talking about, like, a lesser-known, like, Image or Dark Horse comic, or something that you could order through Diamond, but is more or less known, and maybe through a publisher you never heard before. It's usually, like, really off-the-wall stuff. And that goes past my taste barriers. Comic book resources, CBR, when I read them, they feel bought and sold. Bought and sold by the big two. It's hard to swallow it. I mean, when someone links me to something, they have good stuff there when you filter through the crap, but it's rough. Bleeding Cool, I've actually gotten into a little bit of trouble with the guy who ran Bleeding Cool before for basically calling them a tabloid rag. We're just reporting that, no, they stir up shit. Bleeding Cool just stirs up shit to stir up shit, and sometimes they hit the mark. Broken clocks right twice a day. That's Bleeding Cool. They're kind of scummy, and it's comic book news, so I'm not, like, irate about it. Like, they're usually just talking about comic creators. I don't think it's, like, necessarily harmful to anyone, but I don't like, if they were talking about anything with a little more weight behind it, they'd be breaking journalistic ethic boundaries, I believe. Maybe that's pushing it. I don't know, but I'm not a fan. And then on the flip side, Comics Alliance has become what you would call a liberal rag if they were talking about anything more weighty than comics. They put a lot of bias. They also stir up a lot of controversy themselves, but more the other way. Like, there was a panel with a recent Batgirl issue where they were arguing that Batgirl was transphobic. I'm sure a lot of you heard about this. I heard no one complain about it until Comics Alliance brought it up. The way it was framed in the comic and they show the page, it's really not that bad. Like, yeah, Batgirl's upset with this character who's transphobic because this character is stealing her name. Like, that is the plot of the story. This character is co-opting her name. You don't like that person. You don't like the person who's sullying your, well, was good name. R.I.P. Batgirl's respect. But I just... the way Comics Alliance stirs up shit, and the way that they're always upset when some minority could have been slighted, or when they look at minority issues. I've brought this up before, but they talk about, oh, well, DC hasn't tried to sell a female character. Marvel hasn't tried to sell a female character. Yes, they have. They have tried really hard, actually. It's just people don't buy it. And they've tried to push, and every few years they push again. And there's another round of, minority characters and female characters. And remember, right before the New 52, DC pushed with, like, the new Question, the new Adam, the new whoever, and they were all, like, minorities, and Question was a woman. And then that all went away with the New 52, and sales went up. I mean, it's kind of sick and wrong, but it's hard to blame these companies when they try and the sales plummet when they try, and then people cry foul because the characters are white and male. I think we just need solid new characters that aren't white and male, but I'm not sure DC and Marvel are in a position to sell it because they don't know how to sell anything that isn't, one of their big established characters that has been around for decades. What is the last comic I dropped and why? Batgirl, because, or Batgirl and Wonder Woman were pretty much at the same time, for the same reasons. Creative teams changed, and I didn't want to read the book anymore. And I gave both series one issue to win me over. I wasn't just going to switch over because the creative team changed, but I had a suspicion. I'm like, I probably should, but I'm going to try an issue. And yeah, both times I was mad. So I'm not, I don't know. That's what happened there. DC or Marvel, the loser gets eradicated from all of history. We've been over this, I guess. DC. Character relaunches. What was your favorite relaunch? No big secret. The Ninja Turtles relaunch from, I guess now it's kind of old news, but that is the Ninja Turtles comic I guess I've always wanted. I didn't even know. It is such a brilliant series. It's how I feel serialized comics should be. Like, every issue is a bit of its own thing. They all play to larger stories, but they all play to the larger story. Every one's an installment. And it's all brilliant and all builds on each other, and it's just... Man, I love that comic. Let's see here. Kirby alive today. What title would you like to see him working on? That's interesting. Because I wouldn't want to put him on any of the big superheroes, because that's probably not even where he did his most interesting work. Actually, what I'd like to see is there was a miniseries a while back called Kirby Genesis, where they were trying to play off of Kirby, but the arts, they had Alex Ross and stuff, which in my mind is the furthest you can be away from Kirby. I would like to see Kirby tackle Kirby Genesis in some weird, postmodernist Rio zombie what would that be? That would be insane, right? And just the idea of him being able to do that comic would raise so many questions and drum up so much attention. That would be crazy, man. It would be crazy. All right, 2 teams in a tag wrestling match: superhero team and villains team. Who would win and how? I guess you have Darkseid on one side and Thanos on the other. Obviously. And then you have the Guardian with Darkseid. I guess they're supposed to be superhero and villains. Who cares? Guardian, then who's a lame Marvel knockoff of DC? The Spectre, or the Sentry, sorry, on the Marvel side. So you have Thanos and the Big S. And then you have Darkseid and the Guardian. And Darkseid and the Guardian win, because Darkseid always wins. All right. Movie habits, comic book related movie last watched. A movie. I've been working through Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is so bad it's funny. God, it's so bad. Last comic related movie I watched was actually the Ninja Turtles, because my girlfriend just turned it on randomly. And it's really good. I don't get the hate. It's an indie movie, guys, like crazy. But movie habits. I'm not a big movie person. Partially because of my upbringing, where I didn't get to see a lot of movies. Partially because I was trying to get into it recently. And our movie theater shut down here close by, and to go see a movie around here, the closest ones are like Cinebars or like overly costly theaters, and so watch a lot of stuff on Netflix, but I tend to like serial storytelling, so I gravitate towards TV shows and not movies. And we just finished The Next Generation. Oh my god, and that's so much better than the Next Generation movies. So I end up watching a lot of the comic-related movies, honestly, half the time in the theaters. Not because I'm like, oh man, I can't wait to see a Captain America movie, but because my friends are like, we should go see the Captain America movie. And I'm like, why? And they're like, you like comics? Shut up and come along. And I'm like, I don't want to be a dick. Okay. There you go. That is the in and outs of that. And I don't know, like the movies I get excited to see are movies for movie's sake. Like I was excited to see Noah after I heard Minutia Minute talk about it and talk about how is this filmmaker's vision of this story, and it wasn't like super biblical, but it was a take on the tale. Like movies for movie's sake, I'm actually interested, and I've started looking more into like movies, and like I'm kind of interested by that, but at the same time, like super long, like I don't know, like Casablanca, kind of boring. So I mean, there's no toots and tights punching each other. How long can my attention be held? As we speak, Sleepy Reader asks, do you read Future's End? Yes, I do. I'm reading that and Batman Journal. I read those weeklies. And Future's End is probably better overall, but Batman Eternal has some issues that really got my attention. And I'm starting to wane on Batman a lot. Again, I'm really considering dropping Batman. And I don't think I'm the only one. Where were we? What title would you like to see a silent issue on? Deadpool. Just to shut some people up. Travis. Reveal moments. What have been your favorites? Reveal moments. I was reading the Infinity Gauntlet recently, and the big reveal that most of the Marvel superheroes were basically meaningless in a fight against Thanos with the Infinity Gauntlet was awesome. I don't know if you'd call that a reveal moment. When Spider-Man revealed he was Peter Parker to the world in Civil War, that was kind of a big deal to me at the time, and it turned out to just get retcon whatever, and I was kind of disappointed about that. And I knew it was going to happen. just didn't think it was going to happen that fast. I mean, it was like a year, and the way they wrote comics, especially then, even less so now, oddly, but like, so in the heyday of the right for trade, you know, like 6 issues to get through a story, which means half a year. Meaning, since they did it for a year, there's basically 2 stories across, you know, a few titles dealing with it. So we didn't really get it as much of a status quo as much as a moment in Spider-Man time. And then the way they retconned it really made it like a distant memory. So, meh. Comic collector archaeologist, your best archaeological find. Huh. Gosh, that's a weird one, isn't it? So, back when I shopped at the store more, I found that there were these bizarre, I think it was Simon Publishing, did these Ninja Turtle how-to martial arts manuals in kind of comic form. And I got the Donatello one for the bow staff because I was learning how to train with the bow staff at the time, honestly. Not by choice, that was the only weapon I got to learn. I love Donatello and the bow staff's cool, but the Eskrima sticks make more sense. And also the person who I was training with happened to be the top Filipino stick fighter in the world at the time, or second in the world. Anyways, he was fucking good with a pair of sticks. So I would have rather learned that, but we got bow staff. And so I'm reading through this, and it's bizarre because a lot of what you have to do is, you know, hold the bow, do a lot of this or this. But sometimes you kind of have to use your fingers and kind of like flip around. But the way they teach it is Ninja Turtles have 3 fingers. So they're showing you with these malformed hands how to do a bow staff. And it was effectively just useless. And I can't imagine what they did for the Psy with the Raphael one. But that had to be more useless. What ending of a comic book satisfied me the most? That is actually a really easy question. That would be Strangers in Paradise. It's told in a postmodern way, so they skip all over the story after a certain while. And you actually see the end way before the end, but you get information about stuff later. It's still interesting. But you understand these characters and you care about the relationships more than the events, but the events form the relationships, and it's fascinating all the way through. And the way that series ended was so interesting. The fact that it jumps around, I someday really will enjoy jumping into it again. Because I basically was buying the trades, and I got, by the time I was buying the last trade, the series had been over for about a handful of months, not even a year, I think. So I really lucked out. Man, that series, the way it's written, the way it's presented, is... Terry Moore does a lot of great work, don't get me wrong. That will forever be his magnum opus. He knows it, he loves those characters. That's why it's so powerful. If you are trying to find quality, you know, like old comics, and you can get Strangers in Paradise relatively cheaply, considering the volume of work that it is, do it. There is no better romance in comics. There is narrowly a better story. If you want to argue there are better comics than Strangers, I'm not going to... Okay. You like this comic more than Strangers in Paradise. I have comics I like more than Strangers in Paradise. Don't get me wrong. Not many, though. Not many. It's a recommendation that I can give without reserve. Like, if you want to read good comics, Strangers in Paradise is a damn good choice. It may not be your all-time favorite, but it is one that will stay with you, and it's one that will mean something. And even if you wanted to get rid of a lot of your comics are taking up space or whatever, you would not want to get rid of Strangers in Paradise, because it is a story, it is a piece of work, it is something that just it means something, and it's not, some junky superhero story. It's not some whatever, and it starts out really weird. Like, it probably takes a few trades for it to find its footing, because Terry Moore's almost dicking around, and the first trade almost doesn't actually count by the time the run's over. But seeing that progression, I don't know if the rest of you do, but when you see these creator-owned works like a Cerebus or a Strangers in Paradise, where you see the artist like grow as the comic continues, throwing around cheese, it's so much more powerful in a way, because these characters become alive, and you see that, and oh my god, so fucking Strangers in Paradise all day, every day. Alright, oh god, I didn't even read the next question before jumping on again. First issues, your favorite first issue of all time. Oh my fucking god. Favorite first issue of all time. Deadpool #1. Yes. Deadpool #1, Joe Kelly. It's not the first Deadpool comic I read, but it was the first Joe Kelly Deadpool comic I ever read. And I don't think I've ever been more hooked and more intrigued and seen. It's kind of the perfect #1, for these reasons. First, it's just fucking good. It looks amazing. Ed McGuinness, fucking give it up. Beautiful. Joe Kelly, it's a story its own. It's a bizarre story, too, because Deadpool has to go to Canada, and he's dealing with a nuclear reactor, and he's paid to do something with the nuclear reactor, and then he sees that there's going to be a meltdown. It's going to kill tons of people, and he can't let that happen. He didn't realize the ramifications of his actions. And so he fixes it by basically using his body as a catalyst at one point for the nuclear rods, as Sasquatch, who is fighting him, is helping save it, because Deadpool doesn't know how to fucking work nuclear reactor. Who does? Sasquatch does. That's who. Motherfucking Sasquatch. Best Sasquatch comic of all time, too, as a bonus. And so you see a glimmer of humanity, and you see a glimmer of hope in Deadpool while he's cracking all these jokes, fixing a stupid mistake of his own, but you get a sense of the character, and you get a little bit of the redemption. Meanwhile, you get the murmurs, you don't even know who they are, but LLNL, the big space organization that makes the big about the Joe Kelly arc, they're kind of a huge player, and they're watching him. They're like, he's supposed to be the chosen one. Look at this asshole, basically. And you're getting all this. And then at the end, if you read the actual issue, there's pages of back matter of Joe Kelly talking about the pitch, how there's more to come, how there's all this planned, and if the comic sells, which through the entire run of that was a B book at best. Like, Deadpool did not sell well at all during that time. During the best run of Deadpool didn't sell well, of course. And it's part of the reason why the art's shit half the time. Man. It's a perfect first issue because the story on its own, like, you get a sense of so much. It builds so much. It introduces Blind Elm. It introduces the Hell House. It introduces an entire world of Deadpool, half of which isn't even tapped anymore. Deadpool's world isn't as vibrant as it was in this one issue. And there was Deadpool before it, but not like this. And, like a couple miniseries and a couple X-Force appearances and an X-Men tie-in Toys R Us comic. No, this best first issue sets up a character in a way that narrowly any other comic does. Although, granted, extra pages and whatever, that doesn't get to happen so much anymore. So, there you go. What run of comics are you trying to get a complete run of current comics? That's confusing to me. If it's a current comic and I want to collect it, I own all that are presently available. There is one run I'm trying to complete, Tales of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 2. There are 2 issues I'm missing. One of them I had a chance to get, but I wasn't willing to spend $140 on a single issue of comics. If it was $60, I probably would have broke. That's still way too much. For me. I don't do that. That's my big, want to hunt down and find these 2 issues. And that's not even... I wouldn't own every Ninja Turtles comic ever, but I don't most. Currently, I need to finish collecting... During the time right before the Superior Spider-Man, there was a Venom and Scarlet Spider series. I'm missing a few issues. I'm trying to plug a few holes, and then those will be complete. Yeah, that's... Outside of getting the absolute Sandman editions, these are pretty much my comic collecting goals for probably the next year. And then... Honestly, I don't know. I have so much I need to read, so I should just focus on reading and not buying. So Damien's talking to me and said that he can't heckle me live. There you go. What's my favorite miniseries? God, right now, I can't get Torso out of my mind. I just read Bendis' Torso. Really, that's more of like a graphic novel, but miniseries, graphic novel, what gets published first, I read as a graphic novel, but... That's what I'm going to give you. Favorite couple in comic books and why? Francine and Katchu, because of my whole ramble about Strangers in Paradise that I gave you before. Like that, honestly, if you have another answer, you might actually be wrong. Tell me if I'm being an ass here, but I'm not. You're wrong. It's Katchu and Francine. Right answer, not an opinion. Celebrate women in our community. Favorite female comic book creators. Gail Simone, sure, right. Amanda Connor, Fiona Staples, Layla Del Duca. Yeah. Oh, Melanie Gilliam. She does a web series called As the Crow Flies. It was nominated for an Eisner. It was just nominated for an IGN Best Webcomic of the Year award. You should totally go check that out. As the Crow Flies comic. Pop that into Google. You'll find it. I'm not gonna... Like I said, no fucking research. But it is... God, it's really somber compared to most comics. It's about a young, lesbian, but I think or mostly pre, at least when the comic starts, sexually aware person at a summer camp, at least to start, and it's beautifully rendered. It's a really touching story. If you're looking for diversity in comics, there you go. If nothing else, just go and click through a few pages and take in the way she does a page. It's fucking beautiful, man. Fuck. Oh my god. Oh, women in comics. Fuck women in comics. What I was gonna say is female YouTubers talking about comics. We need more of their opinions, and this year we've seen more, and I hope they kind of can band together and kind of get their opinion out and talk more. They're talking about some comics I don't care about as much, which is great, and all of them are pretty cool, and in past years they've definitely been harassed off of YouTube before, so I understand, and that is the worst thing ever. So I'm glad that there's more people and more diversity of at least, people representing 6% of the population. That's cool. And a little closer to home for most of us. So there you go. I'm really fucking thrilled about that. I just gave you a great example not to have fuck in your vocabulary. Yeah. So, I don't know, my favorite female YouTuber is any that's doing it. Like, you go, girls. Alright. What has been your favorite team-up? Who would you like to see team up? You know, honestly, whenever Spider-Man and X-Men team up, I get really excited. There you go. Dream job. For any current comic book series, who do you like to write or draw? My dream job would be to write comics, which I've tried for and that didn't work out too well. Who would I like to write? Some of my own characters. I would love to write a Deadpool arc and bring it back to some things that I feel are missing from the character that make him more interesting, could actually make him more appealing to more people now that he actually has some limelight on him. I have a Superman story I'd like to tell. I've thought about, because with all my bad obsession forced upon me because of YouTube, I've thought, like, there's a good way to maybe take DC and take some of their characters and play with Gotham in a way that would be smarter and just not involve Batman. I think that would be a really cool project idea. As far as me drawing anything, that sounds like hell. I can't draw. I've tried for years. My own personal hell would be forced to draw and then being told how bad it sucked and knowing that everything was right. Yeah. Team player. Which comic book would you like to be? We just did that. Unbelievable. Something in comics that was too beyond belief for you. Okay. There is a Spider-Man villain that was introduced during a free comic book day thing a few years back. I think his name was like Hyperdrive or some shit. I can't remember. But the unbelievable part was his ability was he could sit in a car and trick out the car. It breaks the mold for me. Like, having the powers to manipulate nature or maybe like others in some way, like brain chemistry, something in some level scientific. To say that you can only trick out cars doesn't make any sense to me, because how do you, as a biological component, only have the ability to affect mechanical objects of a certain nature? What is it about whatever it is that discerns that it's only cars and not, like, I don't know, a bicycle, a motorcycle, a unicycle, a parasail, a balloon? I don't, like, why are there modes of transportation off the table? Why are computers off the table? Why are any other mechanical devices off the table? And why can you only trick them out? Why can't you bend them to your imagination? Like, something, it just didn't work. It was a dumb power. The hows and whys of it are interesting because it gets to... And that's really cool. That's such a good question, because it gets exactly to the heart of what is your level of believing pure fantasy. Because I think we could all at this point basically assume, oh, dude shoots laser beams out of his eyes. Yeah, that happens. Oh, he can fly. Oh, he's invulnerable to fire. Yeah, why not? That makes sense. We're not going to question that. Oh, they can just control the weather, cuz. Oh, they can shoot fireworks out of their hands. Yeah, sure. But that crosses a line, okay? I just, oh, that's such a great question. Everybody should answer that one. Summer holiday. Okay, we're making it. I just lost the question. Summer holiday. What comic book character? Where would it be, and where would you take them? Now we're getting to questions I think I kind of remember answering on Ghost Critics videos. Well, clearly, I would take Mary Jane to a secluded beach. Just, see what happens. Okay, talking about unbelievable. Upcoming attractions. What are you most looking forward to over the next month or two that you hear have been solicited, or what have you wish you grabbed? What am I most looking forward to? I don't really look at solicitations, so the only comics I know truly look forward to I mostly get. But I have seen ads in Image Comics for there's like a Scarecrow God comic. I can't remember the name of it right now, but the way the one-page ad was rendered looks really cool. I kind of look forward to picking that one up. So there you go. Insert Scott Bromstar into a comic book. Oh. Okay. Well, clearly. Well, so Scott, you're Canadian, which unfortunately puts you on Alpha Flight. I'm not putting you on Mega Flight because you're a cool dude. So you get Alpha Flight, which is marginally better. Puck's costume seems like a good one for you. So you're going to be Buck, the bigger Puck. And you're just going to wreck face. I mean, you're awesome. And you're just going to tell them what's what. You're going to get things done. And, with you on the team, Alpha Flight's finally going to sell, get some notoriety. It's going to be good times. My favorite alternate version of a character from a comic book, and worse alternate universe versions. Worse alternate universe versions is probably any shitty Superman. Any shitty Superman. Pick one. That's bad. Don't do that ever again. Ever. It's been done. Don't do it again. Favorite ones, what springs to mind is in the Batman Superman Annual #1, written by Joe Kelly, there's a Deathstroke version that pops in that is clearly Deadpool from another universe. Fucking love that. It's amazing. One track mind, sorry. And then alternate versions. I just had another one in my head. The Spider-Verse thing that's been going around. There is essentially an Evangelion-themed Spider-Man. This is like half of my favorite things in one meshy, beautiful pod. I want that. Screw Spider-Gwen. Give me Spider-Ava. I will buy that every month and sing it from the rooftops if it's good. That sounds amazing. And frankly, there needs to be more mech in American comics. Iron Man does not scratch that itch in the slightest. It's not even really mech, really. I mean, not that a dude in a suit isn't mech, but the way Iron Man's handled isn't really fitting any of the tropes of mech stuff. So, Crossing over. What TV or movie would you like to see made into a comic book that hasn't already been done? God, that's a short list anymore, isn't it? Sex and the City. Why not? Sex and the City, the comic. We need more that, I guess. I don't know. I really don't know. I'm trying to think of a decent show, and honestly, some of my least favorite comics are when they do TV shows or movies because the artists don't try to draw the character, they try to draw the actor. And it's terrible. And that's why. That's the whole reason why it's terrible. There's probably great stories, I just can't even look at them. Honestly. Simply the best. What are the best story arcs for someone new to comics of your favorites? New Age Comics. Is there a New Age Comics drawing? From Clouded Journey. Cool dude. Cool bro. If you're new to comics, I always start with this, like, what are you interested in normally? Like, are you a sci-fi person if you're a superhero person? I normally go the route of, if someone was asking that question, I would assume, as much as I try not to, I would assume that they're interested in reading a superhero. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be coming to comics out of the blue unless they heard of a comic they wanted to read. And whereas there are more and more comics that are not superheroes, when people who are not involved with comics at all think comics, they think superheroes, and for good reason. But hopefully that trend will change. But the image revolution has been around enough to be popular conception. Oh man, I would say there's a lot of great Spider-Man arcs to choose from. I think starting someone with the Ultimate Spider-Man is a good choice. I think starting with the John Romita Jr. / JMS run on Amazing Spider-Man is a great run for Spider-Man. I think actually the Scott Snyder, Greg Capullo Batman arc, and I understand, but I can't think of I like to keep it semi-current. I think that's probably a decent Batman starter because it doesn't take a lot of prior knowledge, but it kind of throws you in. If you're looking for a Superman arc, I mean, you could start someone in All-Star Superman, but you might ruin them because, fuck. If they're really big into sci-fi, maybe starting them with Ultimate Iron Man, because then it's Orson Scott Card and you kind of get that transfer in, and that could be cool. Honestly, if they're really into offbeat stuff, I mean, maybe starting them off with Saga would be cool. And I actually have heard of this. Some people are really big into Conan from other stuff, starting them off with some Conan comics or something like that. Like, if there's some multimedia thing, like, sometimes that transfer can be good because there's some quality stuff there. Like, if people really like G.I. Joe, there's tons of quality G.I. Joe comics, so I understand. I've never read them. If they like Ninja Turtles, it's obvious. If they like, trying to think, like Buffy or Serenity, you could, well, Serenity, but Buffy probably works pretty well, or Angel. There's some decent comics there. So usually if they're kind of interested, there's usually some sort of tangential thing that you could lead them in with, and then maybe kind of find some connections from there. But just getting them to sit down and read like a trade's worth, 6 comics-ish, and enjoy, and then maybe lead them to the next thing. Because I've definitely scared people off with, here, read this library. And no, like, give them, like, maybe 2-3 things to choose from, and then let them read it, and then come back. And because comics are digestible, but if you give someone a pot, it's too daunting. That's why I don't read some stuff sometimes, because, like, right now I'm staring down X-Men Forever, and it's like, over 10 volumes, and I'm like, but when I start reading, I go through like a volume a night. It's no big deal, and but quantity can be daunting. Accents in comic books. Do you hear certain characters' voice? No. I actually realize this. When I read characters, it kind of becomes this weird, opaque thing, and I like, read the words, but I don't necessarily hear voices in my head outside of the ones I normally hear. So, yeah. Death becomes them. What's your favorite death of a comic book character? Uncle Ben, because he hasn't come back. There you go. Partnering up. You're a big superhero. Time to get a sidekick. Pick a YouTuber to be your sidekick. Superhero named Powers. Man. Obviously. I bet the Gaunt Man. Travis. Will be the Gaunt Man as my sidekick. And his superpower will be to stare people down with his amazing beard and make them cry. And then I'll punch him in the face. And that's how things get done. Yeah, so casting couch. If you could cast an actor, actress in a comic book role, who would it be? I am casting myself as Deadpool. Architects. Wow, that question's 2 years too late. Do you think it's right that a small group of creators should say what's going on in universes? Would you like someone new? Do you like them thinking so far ahead? Okay. Let's just unpack that. First of all, clearly we're talking about the Marvel Architects thing. They ran an ad thing where there were 7 of them architects who were supposed to be given ad spaces. They got through Bendis and Matt Fraction, then I think the ads stopped running. Of those 7, I'm trying to think, I think 2 of them still work for Marvel. So what am I getting at here? So the first thing I just have to get off is, do you like them thinking so far ahead? They never did. They never did. The endings were never good enough. The plotting was never there. The through lines across the comics were never that tight. The way that they handled the events were never that good. Even the best Marvel event could have been done better. And not just objectively, anything could be done better with time. No, I mean clearly, really could have been plotted together better. The weakest link of those are always shockingly bad. I don't think that they were plotting that far ahead. Would I like someone new at the head of a lot of this? Dan Slott's been on Spider-Man forever, and for a while I would have said yes, I want someone on Spider-Man. But since he's been back on Amazing Spider-Man, and this Spider-Verse thing has been incredible, as long as the comics more or less keep being good, I'm less interested in it, because they definitely have other writers come in and do stuff. But on the flip side right now, Scott Snyder's Batman has been waning for over a year, and it's clear that with 0 Year, he should have been done, because he was done. Endgame's a great argument for him being done. He's done. He did some great stuff. It's not great anymore. And you get almost anyone else who's hungry enough for it on that book, it will be better. So, why keep him? And Scott Snyder's a great writer. Great writer. Get him on anything else. Really talented, but the time's up, move on. But Dan Slott pulls stuff out, and even his worst comics are interesting and different. So there's still something there with Spider-Man. There's kind of a true love sort of thing, I think. So I still feel like it's working. I just really hope they don't hand off to Gage, because so Architects, but I mean Architects like Bendis, I don't think Bendis has ever spent too short of a time on a book, except for Scarlet. I don't know. So, overall, I think the Architect thing is kind of dumb. Not because the Architect thing is so dumb, but because the event thing's dumb. And any writer who's writing a book should be in charge of writing that book, otherwise they can't tell a great story. I have yet to really see an exception to that rule. So there you go. This is fascinating. Regularity. Would you prefer comics to come out once a week, every month, or would you prefer 4 or 5 times a year full trade? In my mind, this is born of looking at how manga is distributed. Because there's for instance, there's Shonen Jump with a bunch of, your popular action, whatever in there. And we got 10 pages, month, a week, whatever, kind of depending on the comic, though I think most of them are weekly. 10 pages a week also I honestly would argue too much, and I've argued this with my friends who are really into manga, like, it creates this, like, hellish workplace, like, to churn out 10 pages a week, every week, all the time, is just... It's kind of too much. I know we're getting some weekly comics, as something like Future's End is coming around, but they also have a lot of lead time, and they're kind of shoring up. I think that's mostly done before they start publishing it. It's not so much the case with manga. And also, you know, comics are colored and stuff, and there's more than one artist, and they're inked by someone else, so I mean, it's not like... it's kind of hard to compare, but still a lot of work either way, but holy crap, 10 pages a week. But I mean, then eventually they, you know, maybe a couple times a year or so, or maybe once a year, depending on the comic, they put out the little manga volumes, you know, the kind of what you would just consider a volume of manga, but I mean, essentially is kind of a trade, but then those are collected, and then none of those can be recollected in a bigger one. If it's a big enough series. Whatever. With, like, Marvel and DC Comics, it never would, but do I think it would be better? Do I think it'd be interesting to see that? No. Not with Marvel or DC Comics, because the way that they price their original graphic novels is way too high. Also with American comics, there's been weird politics around how much money the creators get from, say, a regular comic to digital to a trade, and how that works. Because usually, my understanding is, and this could be wrong now, it changes every year, could change back, who knows, creators get paid X amount for a comic. If it sells really well for a long amount of time, the creator knows that they're worth more than whatever they were getting paid. If they don't get a raise here, when they move over to DC, they're going to get paid more because they're such a big name writer, and that's more or less how that works. I don't know. But now, of course, the model's more like, I got big at DC or Marvel. I'm a big enough name that I can sell comics kind of with my name. There's going to be enough interest. I'm going to do Image, do my own stuff, and make money. And do something creative, and need infinitely less numbers to sell to make more money. So, I'm not so much against the 20-page comic, but I do tend to like trades more. But what's hard is buying trades, sometimes wondering if it's a lesser known comic, if by buying the trades you're waiting too long and not really supporting the comic enough. And that's a hard mentality to take, because I've definitely done that before, but then you start paying through the nose for this comic that you may like but you don't love or whatever, and you're in a position of trying to be a patron of the arts for every comic you buy, which is dubious at best. So I feel like sometimes you just have to be able to take comics as they come, buy them when it's right for you, and the market needs to adjust to the buying trends of the mass public, which it inevitably will do regardless, because that's market forces and economics, which always win. So there you go. But in a way, I would prefer more comics where, like, say, bi-monthly or something. By bi-monthly, I mean, like, every other month. I feel like, as much as I love getting comics and getting lots of good comics regularly, I feel like giving creators, and that's the part of the thing too, is creators, there's some logistics, there's some time, there's some hand backs and forth, and not always making them on a crunch tends to churn out better material. And at the end of the day, I'd rather have a really amazing 12 issues over 2 years than 12 issues over a year that I'm kind of lukewarm to. There you go. Though, I think a great split is the way a lot of Image and stuff does, where they have, 4 or 5 issues, and then they take a month break, and then they come back to it. I think that's brilliant. So, there you go. Your time is up. Which title should be canceled? Currently, Batgirl should be canceled. It is not good. And honestly, DC's pushing for this kind of cool, hip, Portland female character, and I think it would read so much better if it was any other character, and why not? Why not do a new character? This is a crazy, kind of cool new idea, kind of a new art direction for DC, totally different vibe. Why not a new character with it? It resonates so much better. It works so much better. You have the fans transferred from Batgirl already. Kill it, create a new character. You're going to create so much more buzz. Everybody wins. Even the fans. And then you could start up a new Batgirl series that's more of what people expected. Why not? Holy crap, is this the last question? What? Question of the week. The year. The time of our lives. You have to buy a hairpiece for Professor Xavier. What style would you choose if you had to give up buying comics for a whole year? Would you do that money? What hero would you dress the other half? Oh, that's more than one question. Okay. So if I could buy a hairpiece for Professor Xavier, it would be a red-headed pompadour, of course. Of course. Partially because it's Marvel, so cool hair is redhead, right? And then, I don't know what it is, ever since I've seen Redline, like, pompadour, coolest hairdo ever, just, if I had to give up buying comics for a whole year, what would I do with that money? Buy video games? I don't... What hero would you dress your other half as? Oh! Mystique, because she don't wear nothing. Boom! Alright, kiddos, that was my super rambly, super weird answering all of the Ghost Critic questions lunch hour. Over. Thanks for watching if you made it this far. Dear Lord, what are you doing with your life? And I will do stuff. You should too. Keep drinking. Keep eating. Party on, man. If you want to talk comics, like, hit me up, bro. Whatever. It's cool. It's cool.